You weren't meant to be here, but you are. And that means the time for silence is over. What if I told you that God has already chosen the next messenger? What if that chosen one was you, but you didn't know it yet? While you search for answers, the beast is already moving among the altars, in the cities, in the systems. And your mission, the one you've been ignoring, might be the only thing capable of awakening those who still sleep. Have you felt a strange discomfort, as if the world had changed, but no one else noticed? Dreams that disturb you, silent voices in your spirit. It's the echo of the calling, the whisper that precedes the trumpet. Don't be deceived. Whoever was chosen can no longer live as if distracted, because heaven doesn't call crowds. It calls one by one. In this video, you will understand how to recognize the signs that you have been set apart, what happens when the mission is set aside, and why the beast is no longer coming. It is already moving. Take a deep breath. Because from here on, either you awaken lives, or you begin to lose your own. Not everyone was called, and even among those who were, few said, "Here I am." Heaven doesn't make mass calls, it whispers names in private. God doesn't work with generic multitudes, but with marked individuals. If you feel you've been set apart, don't be confused. This isn't vanity. It's eternal responsibility. The call is solitary, often invisible. While everyone looks outward, God speaks inwardly. Your name may not be in pulpits or on social media, but it echoes in the heavens since before the foundation of the world. Being chosen isn't about being famous. It's about being found, being raised up when no one is watching. God isn't looking for the strong, but for the available. Isaiah heard the voice and responded even without knowing the destination. The call is, first, a response to the invisible. It's when you feel something pulling you away from normality. It's a spiritual discomfort that grows each day, until you can no longer ignore it. But there's something dangerous here. Many confuse excitement with election. Not all fervor is commissioning. Therefore, the true call always comes with pain, separation, silence. It's a cross before it's a crown. And that cross carries a name, yours. If you feel this, don't run, for ignoring the call doesn't erase it. It only makes it more demanding. And here is the truth that few accept. If God has chosen one, He also expects fruits from that one. You might be the only spiritual awakener in someone's life. You might be the last voice before the fall. And if you remain silent, who will speak? Today, this question doesn't come from heaven to a multitude. It comes to you. Only you. Whom shall I send? Many today confuse spiritual rest with abandonment of post. God never promised the mission would be comfortable. He promised He would be with us in battle. And what does the beast seek most? Vacant territories, disarmed hearts, sleeping warriors, because every forgotten mission becomes territory occupied by darkness. The beast doesn't need much effort to defeat a chosen one who has stopped fighting. It's enough that you tire. It's enough that you accept routine without discernment. It's enough that you stop watching. Abandoned missions aren't neutral. They become breaches in the wall. And where light is lacking, darkness doesn't need to ask permission. It enters. Have you noticed how after some time away from prayer, everything starts to fall apart? How a lack of purpose generates anxiety. How the soul silently screams when the mission is buried. This isn't coincidence, it's spiritual. The emptiness of purpose is an echo that calls the forces of deception, and they respond. Christ warned, watch and pray. Not because it sounds nice, but because He knew that spiritual sleep is the prelude to collapse. And often, the beast moves first in the mind, with distractions, fatigue, doubts. Then it invades the spirit. And when we realize, the mission is already surrounded, the altar covered in dust, and the heart in silence. But there's still time. The word doesn't just say wake up, but strengthen what remains. In other words, God doesn't demand perfection. He demands reaction. If there's still a breath of mission within you, even if dimmed, strengthen it. Because where there's response, heaven still acts, and the beast, even if it advances, never defeats a heart that awakens in time. This might be one of the most bitter truths of the spiritual journey. Not everyone will awaken, no matter how much you shout, pray, or warn. There are eyes that have closed by choice. And there are hearts that, even touched by heaven, prefer the comfort of darkness. This hurts, especially when they're people you love. Christ already knew this. That's why he spoke in parables, symbols, layers. He sowed in everyone, but only some germinated. Awakening is a spiritual act that requires thirst, pain, and humility. Those who are full of themselves, who feel too good in the world, don't hear. And those who don't hear, don't awaken. Because awakening hurts, and not everyone is willing to suffer. And here enters a weight. When you awaken, solitude becomes real. You try to share what you've seen, but receive empty stares. You try to warn, but they call you exaggerated. You try to guide, but they mock your zeal. It's at this point that many give up on the mission, when they realize that awakening others is often watching their refusal. But there's purpose even in this. Awakening isn't about convincing everyone. It's about finding those who have already been touched and still haven't understood. Sometimes all it takes is a word, a video, a testimony, and the spark ignites. And what if you are that spark? If God called you to reach the almost awakened, even if the majority doesn't listen, it's worth it for one. And remember, Jesus himself was rejected by many. John was exiled, Elijah was persecuted, Paul was imprisoned, and yet they all lit flames that crossed centuries. Your role isn't to convert multitudes, but to carry the torch, even if the path seems dark. Because where there is true light, someone, somewhere, will still wake up. Most are waiting for the end of the world as a cinematic event. Explosions, earthquakes, audible trumpets, and the sky opening. But meanwhile, the beast already moves. It doesn't arrive making noise. It infiltrates systems, corrupted doctrines, global decisions disguised as progress. It dresses in light, but carries darkness. While they look to Jerusalem, it's already in the heart of many churches. While they discuss theories about the Antichrist, he already influences laws, media, education, economy. The beast doesn't need a physical throne. It reigns through deformed mentalities, cultures that deny God, and gospels without a cross. It moves with a smile, and few notice. The temple is still standing, but the altar has already been profaned in many places. Doctrines become palatable. Truths are adapted. Fear disappears. The gospel becomes a product. And God is mentioned, but not worshipped. Many are waiting for signs in the sky, while the seals are being opened on earth. And the clock advances, and here's the danger. Those who don't recognize the subtle movements of the beast will end up accepting its decrees as if they were normal, will swallow lies as if they were good ideas, will abandon faith in the name of a greater good, will mock the prophets, and embrace deception. Because those who don't discern end up being seduced. That's why the word shouts, "Watch." The temple will fall, yes. But before that, many will have already fallen inside. The beast already moves among us, in the choices we make, in the values we exchange, in the voices we hear. And you? Can you still feel when something is holy? Can you still perceive when a message comes loaded with another spirit? Don't wait for the temple to crumble. Awaken now. There are people who, from early on, carry a sense of not belonging. They are in groups, but feel alone. They try to fit into the world, but something always pulls them out. This isn't maladjustment, it's spiritual separation. One of the first signs of a chosen one is discomfort with what is normal for others, because the spirit senses, you are not from here. Another profound sign is the internal war that never ceases. While others proceed peacefully, the chosen one lives in confrontation with their own sins, with their doubts, with the weight of God's silence. This constant battle isn't weakness, it's preparation. Heaven doesn't send soldiers who have never bled. It calls those who have already learned to fight in silence. There are also mysterious touches, dreams that return, words that mark, signs that no one sees, but that you feel. Situations that seem to coincide with silent prayers. All of this points to a heart sensitive to God's voice, a separated heart. Even without understanding everything, it has already been activated. And even if it tries to escape, something calls it back, always. And finally comes the holy weight. The chosen one, even wounded, feels a duty that doesn't disappear. Something that compels them to pray, to warn, to carry, even without return, even in tears, because the soul understands that it was designated for something greater, even without a stage, even without glory. And when the beast moves, the chosen one trembles, but doesn't flee. If you recognize yourself in this, understand, you are not strange. You are set apart. You are not late. You are being molded. And if you feel that you failed too much, sinned too much, given up for a time, know that God's choice doesn't depend on your constancy, but on His faithfulness. You were chosen, and it's time to act as such. Biblical basis, Ezekiel 33:6. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, I will require his blood at the watchman's hand. Have you noticed that the weight of silence is sometimes greater than the weight of speech? There are people who carry burdens not for what they did, but for what they failed to do. The watchman, the one who sees danger and stays silent, is not innocent. And in this final time, the greatest spiritual negligence is to see the beast move and remain silent. It's not about preaching to multitudes. It's about awakening those within your reach. A child, a friend, a stranger on the bus. If you've been awakened inside, you have responsibility over those who still sleep. Because awakening is painful, but losing someone you could have warned is devastating and eternal. Each life has a reach, a territory, an invisible number of people that only you can touch. Not fulfilling your mission isn't just a personal loss. It's a vacuum in the divine plan. And hell advances exactly where the chosen remain. Silent, unfulfilled missions become open doors for chaos. That's why spiritual silence has consequences. And if you haven't awakened anyone yet, perhaps you're also losing yourself. Because the fire of faith stays lit when it's shared. When the gift is hidden, it rots. When light is kept, it goes out. Jesus didn't call us to be consumers of revelations, but multipliers of awakenings. Either you blow the trumpet, or you'll too be swallowed with those who sleep. Today, this word comes as a warning, but also as a new beginning. God has chosen you, and the beast already moves. Will you let it find yours with their guard down? Or will you rise up, even wounded, and blow the trumpet? Because in the end, the only life worth living is one that has awakened others. Awaken before it's too late.